Welcome to Adaptive Pathways, where we review products and share practical tips to help you stay independent no matter where life takes you. Today I'm going over this steel rollator walker by Medline, and before I get too far into this, I do want to make an important clarifying statement, is that rollators are intended for individuals who may have like some endurance issues, maybe some weaker arms, and they have a harder time just having the endurance to walk longer distances. They are not intended for individuals who have balance issues, just due to the structure of this device with the swivel wheels in front. If an individual has any sort of balance issues, if they're trying to rely on this to keep them up, it's just going to swivel with them and they're going to go down with this. So this is not intended for individuals with balance issues. So with that out of the way, let's go into some of the pros and cons. So first off, as far as pros, this thing has a 350-pound weight capacity, so it's pretty hefty. It can take quite a bit of weight. I really like how it has this, handy carrying bag down here. You can put a lot of things, a book, water bottle. There's quite a lot of space in here, a small purse, wallet, whatever. And then it can all be covered up so that when you're out walking about, not everyone has to see what you're carrying with you, or even if you're at the grocery store, for instance. So I really like having that option there. I also really like these big 8-inch wheels. I've seen there are other rollators out there that have smaller wheels, and the problem with that is that if you're on a sidewalk that maybe has some pretty large cracks, or go over a stick or something like that, smaller wheels are going to have a lot harder time getting caught up on those things in the way. And with these big wheels, it makes it a lot easier to go over those small bumps, maybe going through some rough grass, whatever it might be. Those big wheels are likely going to be able to handle it. As far as things that I'm not a huge fan of, it is nice that there's a backrest here. I do appreciate that, but it's basically just a metal bar with a little bit of foam tubing. And so it's not super comfortable. And then also you'll notice that it's soldered onto the main frame with this. And so I also wouldn't recommend an individual putting a lot of weight on this. There have been reports, I've never personally experienced it, but I've heard of people where the soldering has come off because they're putting too much weight on the back. So it's okay to rest your back on it, but don't lean really far back on that. As far as operating this, I do like how easy these brakes are to use. So if you're, say, going down a hill or something and you're needing to slow yourself down, you can kind of pump the brakes a little bit and that'll stop the wheels there. Or if you're needing to take a rest break, say you've walked for a little while, you're getting fatigued, you need to take a load off your feet, you simply just press these down and it locks it in place. It's very easy, it takes very little effort to lock those in place for when you are ready to sit down. And that's actually an important tip. It seems like common sense, but a lot of people don't do it. And that is, anytime you're getting ready to sit down, before you sit down, you always have to make sure those are going to be locked in place so that it's not going to roll away on you. Otherwise, when you go to sit down on it, it might start doing that, and obviously we don't want a fall for anybody. So make sure these are locked before you sit down and before you stand up, just to make sure that you're going to be safe doing that transfer. Coming on these brakes, if you'll see, it's just kind of like a regular bike brake cable, and it comes down here. And one of the things that I really like about a lot of these rollators is that they intend you to get a lot of good use with this. And now over time, the rubber on these wheels is going to get worn down from walking over sidewalks and stuff. And so as that happens, this metal brake pad is you're going to squeeze it, and it's not going to make as good of contact. And over time, it's going to allow the wheel to roll as you have it braked. But it's really easy to tighten these brakes. There's 2 nuts right here. Simply pull up and increase the space between the 2 nuts just like that. And by increasing that space, you're putting extra tension on that cable, and that tightens the brake on this. So even if the rubber starts getting worn down, starts getting thinner, you can continue to tighten the brakes just by doing that quick and simple adjustment right there. Usually it doesn't require any tools, but if you have any gunk, maybe something spilled on there or something, you might need some tools just to get it loose. But a lot of the time you can just do it with your fingers, just like I did. Let's see. The carrying bag is really nice, but that does bring me to one of the cons, is that this carrying bag is only held on by Velcro. And so as many of us know, Velcro over time has a tendency to get worn out, especially if it's getting like fastened and unfastened frequently. Now with this bag, you shouldn't have to be unfastening it a lot, so hopefully you won't have that issue. But over time with more weight, if you put a lot of heavy things in here, that Velcro may start wearing out, and it might start giving out. So I wish it was something a little more secure, but most of the time it does fine, but that does have potential for wearing out. As far as packing this up, when you're getting ready to go somewhere, you want to put this in a car, in a trunk, something like that. There is this little strap right here, which goes down to the folding bar. If you simply pull on this strap, it's going to fold it up. And this is kind of another one of those cons that I don't really like, although it's pretty easy. But this back really sticks out, and it kind of takes up quite a big profile or footprint when you're trying to get it in a vehicle. Now, I mean, it is pretty easy. You just have two little push buttons here, you push those in, and it does pop out pretty easily. So it's not a huge issue, but I kind of wish it would just fold up instead of having to actually physically remove it. And then another thing, well, I just showed that. Make sure that anytime you're using this thing, make sure it's fully extended and locked in place before you start walking around it, just to make sure it doesn't fold up on you when you are walking. Another thing I did want to mention is that when you first get this product out of the box, you're going to have to do a little bit of assembly. It's pretty simple, but I wanted to show you an important thing. So first off, when you're putting these screws, when you're putting these handles in and adjusting them, you'll notice on this side, this one's correctly installed, and the head of the bolt fits perfectly in this hole. This hole is actually cut to the same shape as the head of the bolt. And then on here you tighten it, and that makes sure that this handle is really firm and solid. Now over here I've given an example of what I've seen a lot of times, where people take this plastic washer that's intended to be on the other side and they put it on the side where the head of the bolt is. And when they do that, it prevents that head from getting securely locked in that hole. Now you'll notice this handle has quite a bit of wiggle to it. And so that can make people feel not as secure or safe when they're using it. So an important, simple, easy thing to do when you're setting it up, but I've seen so many people not put it in correctly. Now, when talking about the handles, when you're adjusting this for your height, the proper way to adjust it is if you stand in front of your rollator with the upright posture and just hang your hands down loose at your sides, the handles should hit you right at the wrist crease, and that's how you know you have it appropriately sized for yourself. And then another thing I did want to mention is that this seat, it is 21 inches high. That is a little bit higher than maybe some like standard dining room chairs or something. I believe a dining room chair is closer to 18 inches. So this is a little bit higher of a seat. So if you're an individual that's more on the short side, I would definitely kind of compare against some of the other seats, kind of figure out what is a comfortable height for you. Some people who are shorter, when they're sitting down on this, they feel like they're sliding off and falling off, but the majority of the individuals who are using this, that's not going to be an issue for. One other really important thing to keep in mind is that these rollators are not intended to be used as a wheelchair. In fact, there's actually a label right here. It says, "Do not use as a wheelchair." And I see it so often where people will sit down, and instead of just using it as a brief rest, just a sitting rest break like you're supposed to, they will unlock it and then they'll start moving around and wheeling themselves around as if it's a wheelchair. And the reason that you're not supposed to do that is because if this was a regular wheelchair, the swivel wheels would be in the front and the stationary wheels would be in the back. But with the swivel wheels being in the back, it makes it much less stable when you're trying to move around. And if you were to hit a bump or something like that with one of the swivel wheels, it's much more likely that it could send you sideways or falling down. And now you're falling down backwards. You can't stop yourself. It's much more dangerous, much more prone to injury. So make sure if you're using this, do not use it as a wheelchair. If you need something like that, try to find a different piece of equipment that is intended to be used as a wheelchair, like an actual transport wheelchair or something like that. So I wanted to make sure, please be aware, do not use this as a wheelchair and roll around on it. So those are a lot of the pros and cons for this. I really do think this is a solid product. I like, it's very cost affordable, I should say. There's a lot of other rollators out there on the market, but this is definitely one of the lower priced ones, and so I think you get a really good value when you do purchase it. Now, Medline does actually have another version of this. It's basically the exact same frame, painted black, and with thinner wheels on it. This is their lightweight model. So their standard steel rollator, this weighs about 19 pounds, and for some individuals that just might be a little bit too much to try to lug around, to try to lift and put in a vehicle, and so they did make this lightweight version. It is 5 pounds lighter, weighing only 14 pounds, and so some people, that extra 5 pounds does make a lot of difference. But with the lighter weight, it does also have a decreased weight capacity. So the standard one has a weight capacity of 350, like I talked about. The lightweight one is only 300 pounds. Still pretty significant, pretty hefty, but it is a little bit less than the other one. Otherwise, they're pretty much the identical rollator. The wheels are shaped a little bit differently, but they're still 8-inch wheels, so they can still handle the bigger bumps. So these are both great options. You know, if you're looking for one that's a little more lightweight and the weight capacity isn't as much of an issue, definitely I would look into getting the lightweight model. But if you're needing something with a little bit higher of a weight capacity, I would definitely go with the standard. But these are two good products, entry-level products that really help a lot of people. So I did also want to mention, I hope you found this review helpful. If you are considering purchasing one of these products, you can check out the description in the video below, where there will be links to the products. Now, as an Amazon associate, I do earn from qualifying purchases, so I want to be upfront about that. And then if there's anything in this video that you felt like I didn't cover, any questions you have, comments, I'd love to hear about it. If I need to make a follow-up video with more information, I'd be happy to do that, or respond to any comments you might have in the comment section. So, hope you found this helpful, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.